kind of start you off, obviously a pretty quick turnaround from a scouting situation with Missouri. You just played them, I think, February the 4th. See anything different from them on film or anything, or pretty much you expect them to attack the same way?
I'm glad we didn't have to play them the first time around with the short turnaround. That was huge in terms of being able to scout them and prepare our team better. The second time around, it's a little bit easier, obviously, for everybody. But in terms of how they're playing, no big picture things. They're still about turning you over. They create so much offense from their defense. When we're really clicking, that's kind of what we do, but they do it in a different way. It's nonstop. Every time you throw the ball in, and a dead ball throw in on the sides, backcourt, front court, baseline, they're messing with you. They're trying to make you throw an errant pass. And the pressure that they do it with is different. Sometimes they gap you. Sometimes it's all very, very aggressive. And even in their presses, they're going to give you different looks. Every time the ball goes through the net for them, they're going to pressure you. Sometimes they're going to do it when they miss shots. They're going to pressure you. And they do it full court, half court. And so there's a lot going on. And trying to stay organized, and then just that balancing act of, how aggressive are you going to try to attack it? Are you just trying to break the press and get to the front court, or are you trying to take advantage of the pressure and let it work for you? And that's a balancing act that, in the end of the day, when the clock's ticking, the players have to make decisions. There's nothing I can do about it. Certainly try to do what we can in practice, but that'll be a big deal as the game unfolds, like it was here, is when do we push and attack, and when do we beat it and try to get organized in the half court. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to do a better job of taking care of the basketball than our last outing, or we'll be in trouble.
We'll say the coach is right and go to Steph.
Coach, I was kind of curious, what you remember from the recruiting process of Sean Jones, and kind of how, he's a guy who flew under the radar in a lot of recruiting, aspects. How did you guys kind of come across him and get him in so quickly?
Yeah, it was just word of mouth. Our staff was on it and basically got me up to speed quickly, and it was video, a lot of conversations like it always is with people that know him better than us and the area that he's from. And at the end of the day, it just worked out. Certainly glad that it did. He's become a vital role player for us, playing pretty consistently now here down the stretch. And, it just worked out in our favor. It was a heck of a shot in the arm for us heading into the fall semester.
Did you think when you first kind of got close to him that he would be a guy as a freshman that could, come in and have such a big role early on?
Once he started practicing, and especially when we got to the closed-door scrimmage portions of our season, we all felt like he had a chance to contribute. Just his length and the way he moves and his instincts. And for the most part, he plays with a pretty good confidence level. And the injury really set him back. He basically was out for 4 weeks. And that's a long time for a kid that got here in August, for a true freshman. If it wasn't for that, who knows where he'd be in terms of his productivity and his minutes. But that really set him back, and now he's obviously fully recovered, and he's a big part of what we're trying to do.
We'll go second row to John to coach's left, and then we'll go over to Theo on the second row as well.
You always talk about the big goals of the NCAA tournament for this team and this year. Now you guys, I believe it's only 4 games left. Do you kind of keep in mind what y'all might have to do in those first 4 to get in, like record-wise, or do you treat every game like a game 7? What's kind of the mentality for what you think you guys have to do to get in?
I don't always talk about it. I just get asked about it. That's a big difference. And I understand why the questions are asked. It's just, hey, the world we live in now with social media, and so much is written about March Madness, who's in, who's out, the seeds. It's all over. You can't not see it unless you're just going anti-phone and anti-social media. the websites. I think I mentioned that when we were in that little mini winning streak, when our resume was building back up, that we didn't talk about it. Just felt like we were in a good rhythm. There was no reason. We were playing well. And then after the Kentucky loss, we addressed it on Friday before we left for Ole Miss, just to make sure we were all on the same page. But in terms of, in my mind, is there a number we have to get to? I don't know. I don't know what it would be. I'm not looking at it like that. Your mind wanders, certainly, but we're just really trying to control what we can control. And I know that's a cliche, but I think that's all you can do. But what I do like is we are in control of our own situation. I mean, this isn't a conference race. We're not in that. I've been in those situations where you're going down the stretch and you need help from someone else to win a championship. And that's not the situation we're in. We control our destiny by how we play, by how we prepare. And that's what I've told our team, is that's what you want, is to have your own control. Now, that may change down the stretch, but at the end of the day, all these people that do the predictions aren't in that room. They can look at the percentages they get right and all that, and I don't get down that rabbit hole at all. But I certainly know where our numbers are. That's what I pay attention to. And I think for the most part, our kids do too.
Go ahead, Theo.
Okay. Mizzou is last in Division I in allowing offensive rebounds. What did you think of offensive rebounding in the Ole Miss game, and how much of a focus is that after the Kentucky game last week?
We've tweaked with what we do when it comes to that. I've always been, pin your ears back and send as many as you can, more than most. It's always been a big part of our offensive scheme. In the last few weeks, we haven't sent as many guys in most games because, one, some of the guys that are supposed to be crashing aren't doing it in a consistent manner, so I got tired of fighting it. And two, we were playing so many teams in a row that a big part of their offensive percentage of points was pushing the basketball. So I'm not that smart, but I finally went to the point where, why am I fighting this battle anymore? Let's just send a couple more back when they're in the game. They're not going anyway, and help not get outnumbered as often in the defensive transition game. So our offensive rebounding numbers have dipped a little bit, but I think our get back has gotten better, and we're not giving up, quite as many. But when you play a team like this, it makes you kind of cringe a little bit, man, if we had more guys going, we could maybe get some more offensive rebounds. But at the same time, they're one of the top teams in the country in scoring in fast break opportunities. So, that's the game within the game, and we're still going back and forth on how many we want to send to the offensive backboards.
Back to the front row and Danny P.
Coach, can you just kind of talk about the offensive performance of Cam on Saturday? I knew he was scoring, but a couple of us, we were just talking about how we were surprised looking at the box score and he had 17 and tied Tolo for the lead. What did you think of that? And then moving forward, what kind of an offensive threat can he be?
He's playing with a lot of confidence. He plays the 4 for us, some 3, kind of goes in between, more 4 than 3. And when you have forwards that can push the break and being that big and strong and make decisions and not have to outlet it, that's a luxury. I know, but you put your defensive cap on, it's no fun to defend that. And, the grab and go guys, and he's become one of those guys for us. And now it's even gotten into the half court where he's learned how to play against teams that are gapping him, meaning they're not guarding him for the 3, so they're playing off him. And if you're smart and you understand how to do it, you can use it to your advantage, and Cam has done that. He's taken the slack up. He's gotten right into their bodies. He's learned how to dribble at defenders and pitch and help his team and use the defensive alignment to his advantage. And at the end of the day, it's always about confidence. And at times, players and even Cam can get overconfident and try to do too much and get himself in trouble and kind of put his head down and just try to bully his way to the basket or jump to find a pass and there's nobody there. And but it's way more good than bad when it comes to him. Certainly in all aspects of the game, but even in his decision making, especially of late, he's become a force for us offensively.
You obviously taken over programs before and started over from a roster standpoint, and you come in, this is probably more of an off-season question, but you come into here and you obviously brought in some good pieces, Rams, and you kind of got a lot of good bench role guys, whether it be from the portal or just regular high school recruiting. But how important was for you to have that core, and I know it's kind of touch and go at first, but to have that core of Cameron and Shaq and DJ and Tolu, how important has that core been for you for this season?
And Murph. It gave us a chance. That's what our staff and I talked about is when the dust cleared and those guys had recommitted to be Bulldogs, to play for our new staff. We gave them plenty of space and plenty of time to make any decisions that they had to make. We wanted the time to get to know them better, but I just felt like it was like taking a deep breath, like, okay, that gives us a chance. If any one of those guys or two, had made the decision to play elsewhere, it would have been hard to replace them. It's pretty obvious to people that watch us how integral, most of those guys are to the success of this team, and always been appreciative of it. Hopefully they're still happy about the decision that they made, but I just felt like, once they made those decisions and we're adding to the mix, and that made a difference on, who we were bringing in too. So we had to have some recruiting situations put on hold because, if certain guys were coming back, we didn't need that position or we didn't need that particular guy. But that's what everybody's going to have to go through, each and every offseason now. But I'm glad it worked out.
Got time for a couple more. We'll go back to Steph.
Looking ahead a little bit to the A&M game this weekend, I guess, do you get a sense of a hunger from your team of, the home loss or against Kentucky and then the opportunity to kind of come back and have a big, home crowd again for this A&M game and, kind of get the win after that loss?
I'll be honest, and this isn't a cliche, I promise. I haven't thought much about A&M at all. Other than in scout mode, I watched Missouri versus A&M, and you're human. You can't not help to pay attention a little bit. But I'm pretty good at just focusing on the team that we're about to play. I'm not, or on the other side of the coin, I'm not bright enough and organized mentally enough to do both at the same time. I really try to keep it pretty simple and stay with the task at hand, and then I'll rewatch it here shortly and look at it from A&M's perspective. That's just how my brain works. But certainly when we get to that point, they have all the numbers, they got all the glossy numbers, they got the record, they're playing awfully well, and it'll be a big opportunity for us. But this whole week is. I mean, who knows how it will change? Going back to your question, like I'm definitely paying attention to some other teams, that we play. I mean, it takes 10 seconds to look them up to see where they stand. But that's the interesting thing about this whole metric deal is, how that changes, from when you played them to now, and from now till even when it's final of where they fall. And so I talk about it being out of our control, but that part isn't. We've got to root for some teams, to end well, because that could potentially help our resume. But this, Missouri is just an opportunity. It's a golden opportunity. We're going to take their best shot. It's kind of like Kentucky. They've lost the last two. They're going to be rallying the troops. They're sold out. It's a great home environment. They play better at home. We're going to have to play one of our better games to win, and then obviously come home and play an unbelievable team on Saturday.
Steph, wrap us up.
Yeah, to follow up kind of on the crowd you guys have had at home, what did it mean to you, I guess, back before the hump was getting sold out, in the early season, and what did it mean to have the season ticket holders who came, the students and paint squad, the guys dressed as the bananas, I guess, what did it mean to, have those people there as you kind of started to see this thing build?
Well, first, I don't have a historical perspective on it. This is my first go around. So I don't know if that's the norm or not. But I know it makes the games more exciting. It's what college basketball looks like when you see the highlights. And this isn't part of your question, but I talk about that a lot with our team. Like I said, most people that watch this game, most, not all, don't understand all the time what it takes to win. They see the big dunk. They see the big three. They see the highlights. But the grimy stuff that's going on under the basket, the things that, we're trying to teach them to do all the time doesn't always show up in the stat sheet. And those plays result in wins or losses. And it's kind of like the crowd. It all plays a part. And when you can get your fan base to support and then help that team through tough stretches. We were so disappointed that we let them down against Kentucky, and I've said it many times, and I don't want to go backwards. I mean, they deserve to win. They played better than us, and they played really well, and we didn't play good enough. But our crowd was there and wanted to get behind us and wanted to help us win, and we didn't play well enough to allow them to be as big a factor as it could have been. But I've been unbelievably impressed with our students all year long. They've been there through thick and thin. They continued to support us. When we stubbed our feet a couple times, and it keeps growing. And it's cool to see the kids painted. It's cool to see the guys in the hot dogs. It's cool when they chant for people to come in the game. I mean, trust me, we're serious and trying to win, but that part of college basketball is fun to be a part of, and I know it adds to the guys' experience as well.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. All right.